Welcome to Business Breakthrough. I'm here with Les Evans from Canada. He is a former CEO of successful companies, and now he is a global business coach traveling all around the world, speaking from stage. And I've been so lucky to have this guy, or Les, as a coach from stage for 3 days. And I'm going to say I'm blown away by his knowledge, and not to mention the way you tell stories, Les. It's incredible. And I showed my son pictures of you when I came home last night on Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. I said, this guy, I'd like to clone him for you to have a male role model to teach about life and life lessons that I cannot, thank you enough for that.
Well, you're quite welcome. Thank you. I'm very flattered by that. Thank you. That's probably the most original introduction I've ever had. So I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you for being here, for taking your time, first of all.
You're quite welcome.
I'm really grateful.
It's my pleasure.
I came up with this idea, Business Breakthrough, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there struggling, and we don't know about each other. I mean, we have Norwegian entrepreneurs that are going global, guys, right now, and they're taking the world. I don't know how to say, it's like beyond words what they're doing out there. We have Roger and we have these other guys, and my thought was to bring to this show people like you and other entrepreneurs with success for the rest of us to learn from you.
Sure.
So you can educate us and inspire us and empower us to raise yourself, our lives, and our businesses to the next level.
Well, it's absolutely
so,
my
one of the things I'd like to know, or know about, is what it takes to become that killer entrepreneur. Just kills it.
Killer entrepreneur.
Killer entrepreneur.
Well, those are. First of all, thank you. It's an interesting question. Those are two separate words. I don't think that you need to be a killer to be an entrepreneur, but that's okay. I understand the reference. What you mean is somebody's very aggressive and successful, and you can be aggressive without being offensive.
Exactly.
And this is something actually I'd like to underscore, particularly in Norway, because this is a culture I understand very clearly, particularly coming from Canada. We tend to be more polite, and we don't think of ourselves as aggressive, but that does not mean we are weak.
No.
You can have great strength without being weak. And I think probably the greatest characteristics are, first of all, as I said perhaps earlier today, is having a vision and a belief that you can make a difference in the world. And the second thing is self-discipline. You cannot become successful without discipline as an entrepreneur. I mean, it's impossible. But the thing that fuels that discipline is the passion for what you do. And entrepreneurs are inherently problem solvers. They are people who are fascinated with either solving problems or helping people achieve desires, or creating a better world, for example. And to me, those are the three things that it takes. You don't have to be a ruthless business person. In fact, the world is changing so much today that what humanity and indeed the world is looking for are people that genuinely and authentically want to make the world better. People are seeking those solutions. So that's exciting. And I think the people of Norway have that kind of mentality. They have that kind of personality, that kind of culture, and also the kind of compassion that the new way of doing business is going to go into the future.
I have heard the word authenticity and aura authenticity mentioned many times, and I know that one of my words, my themes for my business is being authentic, because I worked for years to find back to myself and my authentic voice, my inner voice.
Yes.
And when you say that, I believe that it also has connection with confidence.
Absolutely.
So how do you build that confidence? Because we have it in us.
Well,
but also, also connected to the authenticity.
Well, those are two different things. I mean, authenticity is being true to yourself. That's the very definition of integrity, which means to be true to yourself, to walk your talk. You will do what you say you do. Confidence, on the other hand, is often developed from competence, meaning that you've acquired a skill and you've become very, very good at what you do. Therefore, you have the confidence that you can actually do what you say you can do. Authenticity is simply being real. You're not advertising or making false claims. It is what you see. It is what it is, as they say. It's being transparent. And that is something more than ever today. I think it was Forbes magazine that said just recently that the likability of a CEO or of a leader is now becoming one of the major global influencing factors of whether people will buy into the company or buy into the cause or the movement. So, you know, there's no more faking it. This fake it till you make it nonsense, we're done with that. Thank you very much, and good riddance.
And that's one thing, because people keep saying that. I hear my friends say, oh, fake it till you make it. But I've actually heard, fake it till you become it.
Well, I have a better phrase for that.
Yeah, please, let us know.
Don't act as if, act as if you belong. In other words, figure out the characteristics required for success. Don't act as if, start acting as if you have them right now. Live up to those characteristics and become an example of those characteristics.
Yeah, okay.
Because as I said, as we're talking about this weekend for 3 days, birds of a feather flock together. That's a very old cliche, but it's true. Successful people tend to be people who have high morals, high integrity. There is no business without trust. Not nowadays. And particularly if you're going to want to succeed in the real world, you're going to need the trust and cooperation of not only your business partners, but of thousands, perhaps millions of customers. And the only way you're going to do that is to go back to that word of authenticity.
Yeah, exactly. You know, people have seen you on stage for 3 days. It's been really high, you know, high level of energy. I'll tell you, it's been great to see you. And you've had a lot of feedback too, because people genuinely feel that you're real. You know, people want
I hope so.
real people. People want the real you. But you're also a change maker. How has that been for you to actually come from where you were and to become or be in a position that you now know you're actually changing lives and making a difference in the world? That
is perhaps one of the most interesting questions I've ever had thrown at me. To tell you the truth, it throws you off. I'm learning to grow into this role because what I did is I educated myself. I worked really hard. I built a great business, and then I kind of semi-retired, as it were. I never imagined 4 or 5 years ago that I'd be going around helping in people, and never imagined even further the impact I would see from that. All I can say is it's a great privilege. At this stage of my life, I finally feel like I'm really contributing something. I mean, I did when I built a business, but this has brought a level of profound meaning and a depth to my life that I never would have imagined. And it has brought a joy to my life that I never expected. And it's a thrill, an absolute thrill for me to be here and help, you know, entrepreneurs like yourself, men and women. And I said a little bit about that today, about women in business. I believe that men like myself and the generations coming up, we are more than willing to not only support but partner with powerful business women, because we recognize the value that women bring to the entrepreneurial equation. It's a very exciting time.
You actually mentioned feminine and masculine energy. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think men and women should celebrate their differences and celebrate the strengths and weaknesses that both have. I've enjoyed a wonderful relationship with my wife, and one of the reasons why is she has every strength that I have as a weakness, and vice versa. It's the complementary effect. 20, 30 years ago, it was all about becoming the big superstar, the big CEO, and I'm the boss, et cetera, et cetera. Today, that thinking is very much shifting. I believe that the greatest thing is not being a superstar, but having a team of superstars. And to ignore the feminine equation is to do so at your own peril. It's ridiculous, particularly because women are a global force. in the business place. They're a global force in purchasing power. They are now becoming the fastest rising executives, the most successful entrepreneurs, and the leading source of self-made millionaires. So gentlemen, we need to pay attention to our women.
On behalf of all the women out there, thank you, Les.
You're quite welcome. It's my pleasure.
We have a lot of work to do, obviously.
I think you're well on your way. Yeah.
Thank you for that. The other thing that I'd like to talk to you about is being childlike. You know, I'm a childlike person. I feel like being home, jumping up and down as soon as you go out the door. There will be somebody who noticed that, so it's easier, you know, to stay home sometimes and be with the children. But I've acted more childlike lately because I feel that's more me. But you actually talked about that today.
Absolutely.
As a huge strength to use in being creative in business.
Absolutely.
Can you fill me out on that?
Sure. I mean, this is the thing, like, you know, because as we grow into adulthood, we have so many responsibilities. We have families, we have children, we have corporate responsibilities. If you run a public company, you've got shareholders to address. The challenges from a creativity standpoint, we have forgotten the romance of childhood. And indeed, if you look at, I always tend to look at business as a boy-girl relationship because I think that's a great metaphor. To keep a romance alive, a marriage alive for many years, you have to go back and revisit all the things that made that marriage or that relationship exciting. I mean, you went to movies, you had fun, you laughed, you sang songs. It was all about creating an experience. And this is true of customer experiences. I mean, it's like we've gotten so serious that we're seriously going out of business. You know, is when we recreate magic and wonder in business, and we've brought back social causes, and we've remembered our humanity, and we've started to seek out the nobler purposes in what we do. Business does not have to be just business. We can actually serve humanity and create a profit, which in turn we can reinvest into humanity. This is where business is going, in my opinion. This is the business of the future. And so that's why I like to have that fun, that childlike wonder, that creativity, because otherwise we're censoring the very thing that springs us to life. That's the inspiration, that's the juice, that's the firepower.
Okay. So, with the permission to be great, is that phrase familiar to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it is. What do you mean by that?
Permission to be great is simply this. I found, and this is a thing that I've seen all over the world, and it's in every country and every culture, no matter where I go, whether it's to Asia or to England or to France, Germany, take your pick, South Africa. People are always waiting for someone to come along and give them a break, give them a chance, give them an opportunity. There is no one, in my opinion, that's going to give you the lottery moment. There's no fairy godmother. In fact, point of fact, you are the fairy godmother. You are the cause of your own lottery. It's up to you to create these moments. And life is just waiting for you. I don't know where we were taught that we need someone else's permission to succeed. But the fact of the matter is if you want to be the king or queen of your life, crown yourself. It's just that simple. Yeah. It's just that simple, and you'll find that the people who succeed in their lives come to a realization at some point that it's up to them. The old adage is, if it's to be, it's up to me, and it's just as simple as that.
Exactly. So, branding. Branding is the fuel of your business.
Like my friend JT Foxx here, he's great at branding.
He knows how to brand himself.
Absolutely. Yep.
I've seen lots of examples of that. But now we're in 2016, and the trends are changing. They say that the way we do business will change dramatically. And how is branding now? I mean, what do we do? What do we need to think about? What do we need to master? To brand ourselves, to raise ourselves to the level we want to.
Okay, well, and I mean, that's another great question. I mean, branding has changed, and it hasn't changed. First of all, if we look at traditional branding used to be your reputation. Your brand was, what do you stand for? For example, if you said the name Rolls-Royce, you would have specific words that would come to your mind: quality, luxury, excellence, panache, these kinds of things. So it was really about your reputation. And if you look at the origin of branding, which is like physically branding cattle, it was about creating an identity symbol to say, this is what I stand for. Now today, branding is still those things. It's the promise to the customer, it's what you stand for, it's your reputation, it's what people say when you're not around. But today we can also create branding in the sense of identity. Today, branding, because of the culture and the technology we live in, branding has become much more instantaneous. So if you're talking about progressive branding, in the old days, we could use names like Rolls-Royce, which were simply the names of the inventors, Rolls and Royce. I can't remember which was which, Henry Royce or Henry Rolls. You'll forgive me for this. But today, we're looking to create names that people can, get immediately. Because entrepreneurs starting out, we don't have $1 billion to say Nike or Coca-Cola. It's like, what is that? So we have names that come out like Gorilla Glue, for example. I'll just pick that out of the hat. That's a pretty obvious branding name. It's glue and it's like a gorilla, so it's very strong. So my advice to entrepreneurs just starting out, if you can come up with concepts like that where people just get it immediately. But of course, even if you create a name like that, the brand, that is to say, the reputation will not survive unless the product can live up to that promise. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. I'd say that's the biggest variances in what we're doing today.
But you also talk about the difference between personal branding and company branding, because they are different strategies you use. What is the difference, and why is it so important to know
personal, it's only become important in the last, 20, 30 years. And the reason for that is today we use the term serial entrepreneur, which is kind of a bit of an oxymoron, because once you're an entrepreneur, that generally indicates that you're in several businesses. Having said that, the entrepreneur today has his or her fingers or toes in many different businesses, perhaps. The challenge is if you build a company, and you build a company brand, and then you as the CEO or director want to move to another business, you are anonymous. And so you may have that great track record, but it's not nearly as powerful as if there's some brand identification on you, the person. So if you look at people like Steve Jobs, for example, or the Mark Zuckerbergs, these are the new celebrity CEOs, or Elon Musk, for example, Richard Branson. They can take that face and that name, because that is a brand unto itself, and translate it to any other business. So that's the difference between building your personal image, as it were, versus just a corporate image. So today there's value in both, because you can take the equity in this person and translate that. And that's something I wish I would have known, a decade ago, because I built this big successful company, but nobody knows who I am. Does that make sense? So that's the difference. You can build a successful company and be anonymous, which is great because I valued my privacy, but now doing what I'm doing, now I need to get known. So that's the challenge there.
I actually read something from JT Foxx who said that, well, if you don't have a business yet, at least start with branding. So that was new to me, because you feel like you need to have something to put out there. A name or a product or a company, and some people don't even have a domain, and you need that. But no,
this is where this is where the rules have changed, right? The name has become the thing.
Big change.
I mean, if you look at the Kardashians, and I use that example all the time, the Kardashians are a name. I mean, there was nothing really before that. And if you look at the new generation of Hiltons, they have traded on the name. I mean, Paris Hilton, et cetera, have traded on the name more than anything, even though they're far removed from the original business, which was hospitality, the Hilton chain of hotels, of course. So,
there's one more thing, or there's lots of things, but one thing that I noticed that you talked about when you introduced yourself and talked about yourself is that you have no degree, that you don't have that traditional education, or that people would love to see, because people always ask you, what do you do? And I believe that there are different ways to succeed. So when I hear somebody who doesn't have a degree and made it to the top like Les here, I mean, I just love it. I don't know why, but I just adore it. But what can you say, or what do you think about the school systems today and what we actually teach our kids?
Well, I mean, that's a bit of a touchy subject.
It is,
I will
I
say
know.
this, that just because I don't have a degree does not mean that I'm not highly educated.
No.
And so there's a difference. There is no question, I mean, we need formal education. You cannot become a doctor, and a competent doctor, without that, for an attorney, accountants. These things are all important. As an entrepreneur, I think I'd have to see the statistics. I think it's roughly half and half. But you're going to see extremely successful people that have degrees in business and finance and et cetera, all sorts of fields. Science, for example. You're probably going to see an equal amount who do not have that, but yet chose a different path to achieve a result. I mean, certainly Steve Jobs was a college dropout, as was Mark Zuckerberg, as was Bill Gates. I mean, there's lots of those examples. But then you have a lot of educated CEOs. But it's ironic, some of them were CEOs. Fred Smith, who started FedEx, I believe he got a C or a C minus on his paper when it came to FedEx, because his professor said that nobody's going to be willing to pay, outrageous fees for overnight delivery. It's formal education is just part of the equation. Sometimes I say that university and college is instruction. Education is what you get outside of that system. The key is to never stop learning. What you'll see in common with both sides, whether they have a formal education or a non-formal education, they go their own route. The consistency that you'll see is they continuously learn, they continuously seek mentors and coaches and get people around them. They surround themselves with people with greater competence. The singularity, the thing that makes them both unique, is their vision. They have the vision, and the rarest person in the world is the vision who can see what other people cannot see and have the audacity to go after it. That's it.
That's the one.
That's it.
Exactly. So I must say, we're at a JT Foxx event right now. We've been so lucky to have you here.
Thank you.
And you also have this phrase, family first. What's saying family first?
What does that mean?
What does it mean? I mean, what does it mean? Because we can feel it. We who attend this event, we can really feel that this is something genuine.
Yeah,
this is something really
family first
deep.
is a value, it's an approach, it's a philosophy, it's a way of doing things. And again, that very much ties into what we just spoke about a few minutes ago. Businesses of the future are going to be more inclusive. We're going to create cultures, tribes, movements, memberships, birds of a feather, as I said before. Family first is a philosophy because you tend to, when you espouse a value or you articulate a set of values, you tend to live up or down to those values. And so we've chosen that approach. This is how we choose to do business. This is how we see our clients and customers. They're not clients and customers. They're friends, they're family. And let's face it, as they say, blood is thicker than water. When you think in that term, when you define things like that, when you look at things that way, it brings a new meaning to the relationship, and it informs everything you do.
It also feels safe to share stories. I mean, that's something new to me. I mean, how important is it to be able to share your story? Because you shared yours.
Absolutely.
I mean, you had your pitfall, and then
and plenty of them. Plenty.
Not this guy. But how important is it to be able to tell your story today?
I think it's extremely important, and the thing is, you may, as an individual, I hear this from a lot of people, well, I'm not really anybody special, why would anyone hear my story? And the fact of the matter is you are special just by definition, because you have lived a unique life, and when I say unique, I mean one of a kind, literally. You have insights that no one else can have because you see through a different pair of eyes than I do. You have a different upbringing. We come from different cultures, different languages, different, interests, different talents. All of those things inform who you are. So you never know when someone else on the other side of the planet will resonate with that very thing. And that's why it's important to tell your story. You just never know. Some people think, well, I'm not educated, or I don't have a big success story. It's not about that. If you know even a little bit more, or better yet, if you have a perspective that someone else never thought of because of the way they think, because we all get stuck, that has value. So that's my point.
Did you hear that? Don't sit on the fence and be afraid to share your story, because there might be an amazing business idea in it.
Absolutely.
And if someone knows how to tell a story, it's Les Evans. And thank you so much, Les, for being here on Business Breakthrough with us. Can't thank you enough.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you very
so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.